you about UIT, and I'm starting from the premise that you're in grade 11 or 12, and you're thinking about accounting and finance. You're probably living in the Oshawa, Whitby, Ajax, Durham region area, and you've got a lot of questions ahead of you. So let me try and address a number of things that you might be considering. I mean, I can take you back to when, I was in high school. I had the same issues and challenges in front of me. Didn't know where to go. Thought I was going to go into accounting and finance. Eventually ended up in there, but kind of after a 20-year diversion. And so what I want you to consider is that despite the fact that you're thinking about doing something right now, you want to be able to go to a place where you have the flexibility to change. Because it's not uncommon at all that people who are coming in their first year, maybe in their second year, they decide, okay, I've actually got more of an interest in operations or marketing or HR. So it's important when you consider where you're going to go, the degree to which you can move around as or when or if your own interests change. Another thing for you to keep in mind, I found it myself, which is why I wanted to talk to you today. I found it hard, the transition from high school into university. I thought it was going to be easy. I lived in Ottawa. I wanted to go to Western. I got a chance to go to Western. I was going into business. And so I thought it would be a very easy step. And for a lot of people it is, but for a number of us, it isn't. And so when I think back on that, if I had a few do-overs in my life, one of them would have been to stay within my own community. Because I was moving to a different city where I didn't know anybody. I was living in a huge apartment block like residence. And I was in a different educational school environment. In high school, you guys are used to, I was used to, the teacher saying, don't forget, you got to hand in your assignment next week, or giving you reminders on this, that, or the other thing. And if I didn't go to class, it would be noticed. I'd end up being absent. I was in the office a lot. But at university, it's completely different that way. You're paying, or your parents are paying, somebody's paying for you to be there. And so it's part of that transition from school to, quote unquote, the real world. And this is your first step. And so being in an environment in which you can be in a smaller place. For me, UIT is like, it's Goldilocks. It's not too big and it's not too small. Right? And so there's a real sense of community, a real sense of flexibility. It's very informal, it's very natural. It's very approachable. And there are a number of ways in which people can help you, not just through the transition from school into university life, but also academic advisors like Cindy and like Brianna, who can sit down and talk with you to go through, is accounting right for you? Should I be thinking about marketing? And there's a wide variety of student clubs and associations that you can join in. And again, that way you get to meet other people who have a similar interest. You can go and sort of hang out with people in other clubs and get a sense as you go through various courses, one of which is my course, which I'll talk to you in a minute about. But again, it's a place where you can try and get a sense as to what things are like for you. Let me talk a bit about if you're coming into business school. All right. I did my undergrad at York. I did my MBA at Western. And I love teaching here. And I love teaching the Business 101, the infamous Business 101. At UIT, it's called 1600. So do you want to pop this slide up? Sure. Okay, it's not a barcode. Okay, this just gives you a flavor for as you're coming in as a first year student. the 1600 course that I teach, I refer to it, and when I talk to my students, I say it's the appetizer course. It's a bit of this each week, a bit of infotech, a bit of marketing, a bit of accounting, a bit of finance. And the whole idea behind it is to give you exposure to the various fields of study that, despite what you're coming in thinking about, you may want to get some exposure to and explore. Either through an elective in which you're thinking, maybe I will do another marketing course, or, I thought about doing operations, but now I'm really much more interested in accounting. And so from this course, if you think of this as being the pointy end of the spear in your biz school career, you'll get exposed to these different types of areas. And it's in a fun environment. We incorporate YouTube videos. We may or may not have speakers come in and talk around a particular area. And it will give you the chance to, as I say, get exposure to these various things. So if you're looking particularly at accounting and finance, this school is really strong in that area. As I'm sure you know, that the accounting world has changed in terms of the accreditation bodies are now one. So the old CA, CMA, CGA are now under the CPA umbrella. So that's relatively new within the last 18 months or so. But there are a couple of people within our faculty who were really key and instrumental in participating in this whole merger process. And you get to have a chance to be students of theirs and to interact with them. I'm thinking of John Friedland and Jane Bowen in particular. They were key leaders and instrumental in making this merger happen. So it's very cool to be able to go and talk to them and say, hey, what about? You're really talking and getting it out of the horse's mouth. That's tremendously exciting. So what else can I tell you? In terms of the ability, should your interests change, even from you coming into the business faculty and then maybe you think you want to go in another faculty altogether. It's not as common, but it's not unheard of either. At one point back in my undergrad days, I thought, I don't really like this business stuff as much, and I'm going to switch into computer science, which I did for a semester and realized how pathetically bad I was at that, and then switched back. But the point being, the flexibility to be able to move either from a particular academic area of interest or from one faculty to another is something that should be important to you. It's not to say that you necessarily you will do it, but the nice thing is to know that it's a relatively easy path. When I say relatively easy path, I mean in comparison to other universities. So that's something that you should also be thinking about. I talked about the size and the closeness, and what that means is that you will have a better chance to get to know your profs. I see students, and if you're coming in, by the way, if you're coming in on your first year, the chances are you're going to have me teaching you Business 101. So you'll get to know me. I see students all over the campus. They're saying hi, we talk, we interact. And that's a nice feeling both for me and for them. So as I'm rambling on here, what I'd like to do is encourage you to send me some questions, right? Are there night courses? Are there weekends? How many courses do I have to take? Any questions? What sort of support services are there? There's a tremendous feeling within this university and within this faculty. Everybody wants you to succeed. And whether it's from an academic perspective, being able to talk to a TA or to be able to go and sit down with your prof and just have a conversation with them, either in the cafeteria grabbing a coffee or maybe in their office, or whether you just find university life, like I did, more challenging when I stepped from high school into university. There's just a tremendous sense here about wanting to be there to help you succeed. And to me, that's a very different notion than you will experience at other universities. You're obviously going to think about and explore other universities, and you should. I mean, it's a big decision for you. So it's in the same way if you're buying a car, you're not just going to go and buy the first car that you drive. You should check things out. But as you're checking things out, you should be looking at it from the perspective of, as a person, who am I and what is important to me? What sort of environment do I want to be in? And by that I mean, what sort of, the campus is small, it's great. Again, it's this Goldilocks phenomenon. It's big enough to give you lots of flexibility and opportunities to be in other faculties and in other departments. And it's small enough that you don't have to take a bus from one end to the other. So I think that's important. I know if I was having a do-over, I would choose to stay within my community. I was in Ottawa, so I left from Ottawa and went to London. If I had a do-over, and I know, you can't do that, but if I could, I would have stayed in Ottawa and gone to Carleton, because it would allow me to be at home in my community with my friends, and I could commute to school. So something to keep in mind for a lot of you. And then of course there's the cost, right? I mean, if you're staying local, it's going to be considerably less, probably about half the cost it would be if you were choosing to go outside of the community. In other words, if you had to go into residence, that's a pretty costly undertaking. So that's just another variable in the equation. There's not just one thing that you need to think about. So, give it some thought. Do what you feel is right. I've always believed in think with your head, feel with your heart, and go with your gut. And go around and have a chance to visit some campuses and talk to some faculty or some people at the school, whatever school you're considering going to. Talk to people at various clubs if you have the opportunity to do that at various schools. And as you go through that process, you're going to have a list of things that from a rational perspective are relevant to you. And so you want to inquire about those specific things, but you also want to get a sense and a feel for what does it feel like it's going to be if I go there? So think with your head, feel with your heart, and go with your gut. So I'm just trying to think of any other, send me some questions. All right, help me out here. Okay. So in terms of the flexibility that you have with respect to, do you have to do 5 courses per semester and then do it in a great big chunk? And the answer to that is no, right? You want to be able to, again, it's a personal choice and it has to be a personal comfort. And the traditional approach in the old days, people, perhaps your parents, when they went to school, it was 5 courses per semester, and you went for 4 years, and you did your 20 courses, and that was the program. In today's day and age, we all know that things are different, and so you may have a part-time job. You may have things that are in your life that either from an academic load or from a timing perspective, just make it impractical to be sort of rigid in that type of program. That's another great thing about UIT. There's much more flexibility in that you can balance your course load and your workload, and you can take courses in the summer or the spring. So there's much more flexibility in terms of being able to say, well, maybe I can handle 4 courses in my first semester, and then you found out that, hey, that was pretty easy, so I'm going to take 5 courses in the second one, or I'm going to really cut back and maybe just do 2 courses. Again, flexibility is important, either in terms of the load that you take on, and so another question here in terms of, can you tell us a bit more about the classes I teach at UIT? Well, I teach Business 101. It's actually called 1600 here. I mentioned that. I also teach entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial finance. In addition to teaching here, I run a private equity investment group. And so entrepreneurship is very much at the core of what we do. And interestingly enough, we have financed 2 companies, groups of students that have come out of UIT who have been through the entrepreneurship program and have been involved in the incubator with Morden or with Mike Konopasky. And they've come out of that. And so I've had exposure to them and been able to see how they've progressed. And so we've done 2 in the last 18 months, and we're probably going to do 2 more within the next 6 months. So there's another thing about UIT and its focus in that because it's a more modern school. When I say modern, okay, it's 10 years old. So in a sense, it's had, 6 graduating classes. But it's not stuck in the old ways. Okay? It's the importance it places on in terms of faculty who have, up-to-date, relevant teachings, outside interests in research and or in other projects. I mean, that's really important. So it's very much at the forefront in terms of what's happening out there in the real world today, both from a job market perspective and from internship opportunities. One of the UIT students is an intern now with the Spark Angel Network, which is the investment group that I run. So, he's interning there and he gets experience and exposure in that particular area. And the internship program, whether it be, local and domestic or, further afield, is a tremendous international opportunity, even for first-year students. If you have an interest in being able to go to school or get some experiences abroad, which I would encourage you to do if you're so inclined. Again, it's just part of the flexibility and the variability in the number of types of programs and things you can get exposed to here, which, when you think about it, at the end of the day, leaving school and going through a university program, at the end of that, you want to be in a situation where you're really comfortable with the knowledge and the experience and the contacts that you've gained, because you want to go off into a career area where, you need to get a job, but you actually want to like it. You want to enjoy it because you're going to be doing it for a long time. So being able to get exposed to different opportunities in different situations is, again, something you want to keep in mind. Just trying to see here. Some of the international programs are, I won't say completely free, but there's varying degrees of international opportunities available to you. So some of them are fully funded. I'm just looking at my notes on the screen here. We've had over 150 students participate in the international program overseas. If you have a chance to talk to them, again, whether it's Cindy or Brianna or myself or other faculty members, we can try and make those linkages for you so that you can actually talk to people. What was it like when you were in Singapore? What was it like when you spent that semester in Scotland? So, you have that opportunity and that flexibility here. Some schools won't let you even consider an international opportunity until you're later on in your career at school, but that's not the case here. What else? In terms of the international experiences, you can go there's flexibility. You can go from a semester up to a full year. And so, again, that's something that you have available to you. Why did I become a prof at UIT and what was special about UIT? Well, I think what attracted me, I live in the Durham region. As I say, I run this private equity group, and I love to teach. Right? And I was impressed. I met Jennifer Percival, or as you will see her in the catalog as Dr. Percival, a wonderful person, very warm. And I met her several years ago, and we just got, chatting. and talking about the school and the local area and her vision and for what the university was trying to do and the presence it was trying to have in the community. And that really inspired me. And we shared a lot of things alike. And anyway, so a long story short, through that process, I ended up coming to FBIT, as it's called, the Business and Information Technology faculty. I think that's right. Hope that's right. And I did that because I wanted to have just a real opportunity to, when I say teach, it's more share. You know, being able to provide real world experiences and to make it not some sort of black characters on white paper out of a book, but to make it much more experiential, to make it much more dynamic, to make it much more interesting, and to be able to have that interaction not just with faculty but with you, and to be able to get involved in various groups. You know, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm a CPA. I'm involved in a number of case study competitions that are held, you know, here and Brock and Trent and at York. And so I like to be able to be involved in those types of real world case study things. They're a bit stressful, of course, from a student's perspective, but it's a wonderful opportunity for you to get exposure to you know, people in the workforce and people in other schools and in other faculties. So what makes UIT special? I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to feel and fit, flexibility, and opportunities to find your own path. You know, follow the golden thread that's right for you, and that's both from an academic load. It's from specific areas and interests that you may want to major in within FBIT. It might be to move into different faculty areas. It might be to have a semester overbroad or a longer period overbroad. It might be to be able to intern with firms locally, small, medium, and large. I mean, people often sort of fail to recognize the fact that over 90% of Canadian businesses have fewer than 25 employees. That is the backbone of the Canadian economy. Another reason that I wanted to come and teach here was because I wanted to be part of the process. And, you know, as I say, I live in the Durham region. Right? My kids go to school. We live here. They're going to work here. And as we all know, the Durham region and the Oshawa area in particular have, you know, gone through from the heyday of the auto industry to something now that is, I guess, presenting an opportunity for Oshawa and the Durham region to emerge, to reemerge like the phoenix from the flames in new industry and new opportunities. And so I wanted to be part of, not just from an investment perspective, but from an academic and from a teaching and from a getting to know you perspective, to be part of that process in helping Durham region transition from metal bashing to knowledge based. And I saw that it was a real opportunity to do that here, and that was important to me. So, you know, that was part and parcel of what I thought was special and unique about UIT. Just seeing if there's anything else coming up here. How did okay, so I went from being interested in the accounting and finance area and then discovered that I really liked the marketing area, which for somebody who's interested in numbers, to go that far afield, it's almost 180 degrees. It was something that I didn't know, that didn't expect that I would really enjoy and be interested in. But as it turned out, in following my own golden thread, that was an area that I preferred, and then went down that path. And then later on, after being working for a number of years, went back and did you know, a grad degree, and then focused more on the marketing area, and then came back and then did my CPA accreditation. So life is not, very, very few people have that linear sort of, here's my 10-year plan and I'm going to follow it. And you have to make your path comfortable for you. Let's think. First year business, first year, no matter where you go, first year for me was honestly about surviving. It was just such a different realm that I had never been exposed to. Many more people than myself, just took like a duck to water with it. I had more troubles with it. And that's why I would say, with that experience, being able to sort of look back and try and share with you, it would be, explore different places, but keep in mind what's important, both from a rational, from a program perspective, but very much also from a feel and an experiential perspective. So I guess I'll close it with, think with your head, feel with your heart, go with your gut.